Okay, so coming to Shutter this week is History of Evil. It is written and directed by Bo Mirhosseni, right? It is produced by Babak Anvari, Pip Nuke, and Lucan Toe. It's executive produced by Paul Wesley, Jake Siegel, and Maxim Cotre. Associate produced by Miller Kotri, Sid Elabadwa, um, Max Southall, and Ashley Treadaway. And co-produced by Tracy Keller and Brian Sonderman. Paul Corley handles the music, John Peter cinematography, while Anjern Agrama edits the piece. Hunter McHugh handles the casting, Emily Kingston production design, costume design is Gillian Ann Kriener, hair and makeup we've got William Spataro, Melissa Stryker, Ashley Treadaway, and Crystal Wells. So our cast, right? So, Algira, yeah, boy, I think that's how you pronounce the name, right? She is played by Jackie Cruz. Her husband Ron is played by Paul Wesley. Their daughter Daria is played by Murphee Bloom. We then have got uh, Trudy, aka T, played by Rhonda Johnson Dents. There's, I believe, Darlene's the cop that helps Algier at the start, right? She's played by Tordy Clark. You got Williams, played by Ralph Rodriguez. Danny, played by Zachary Branch. There's Brad, played by Preston Flagg. Jared, played by Jason Box. Miller, played by Ryan Bargerman. Johnson is played by Carl Porter. And we've also got Trevin Macbeth, Dan Winkowski, Nathan Hartley, all doing their thing, along with Victoria Harris. So, the gist of the film: in the near future, war and corruption have plagued America and turned it into a theocratic police state. I feel that's how you say it. Against the oppression, ordinary citizens have formed a group called the Resistance. One such member, Alegre Dyer, breaks out of political prison and reunites with her husband Ron and daughter Daria. On the run from the militia, the family takes shelter in a remote safe house, but their journey is far from over. As the house's dark past begins to eat away at Ron, and his earnest desire to keep his family safe is overtaken by something much more sinister. Right? This is the it's actually the directorial debut from Bo Mirhosseni, right? And he has a statement, right? It reads: History of Evil is a deeply personal film that is inspired by my parents' experience during the Iranian Revolution. It always felt like it was in my DNA to make a film that is political. Both of my parents were big activists during the 70s and still advocate for human rights to this day. That inspiration, paired with my love of horror, felt like the perfect equation to make a horror film that has political themes. For History of Evil, it was critical that audiences understand the fear that the fear that minorities face in this country, with the constant shifting of extremism. My main goal was to use that theme in addition with the idea of never feeling safe, especially in your own country, and creating a looping history of past, present, and future storylines to the script. Ultimately, the film is about good and evil forces in our universe, whether they are supernatural or human. I've always been attracted to films that challenge me both intellectually and emotionally. So I hope audiences are able to experience this when watching the film. And yeah, I think you can definitely see what Bo is trying to do with this film, right? It's set in the future, and we do that thing that a lot of films do, right? It will start off with a load of text on the screen, which is always very frustrating because what I mean, it doesn't stay up long enough to read. It's never big enough, but essentially it's telling us that we're in the year 2045 and the US has now become the North American Federation, right? A fascist state patrolled by roving militia in the name of God and country. So yeah, that is the gist of it. It is funny because I've seen some reviews of this film already, right? And they they want to be like, oh yeah, it might be set in the future, but America have done this before. Listen, every fucking country has done horrendous things. When you try and pretend that your country is perfect and you've never had infractions against human rights, you've never shut the fuck up. Like, stop it. Stop it. Who are we trying to kid, man? Everyone's fuckeries, But yeah, so that's the gist, right? And they're like, and normal citizens, but it's like, yeah, but that's the militia as well. They're normal citizens. It's, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, so we have this, and then we have like a cop. We see a cop. We were assuming she's a cop, right? And she's driving, gets out of the car, looking around, doing some stuff, comes in, goes into a building, gets out, opens the boot, boom, Alegre Dyer climbs out. So then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, right. Because while we're watching this, we're hearing a radio report of, what I mean, this escape and of her, colleagues being hung and blah blah, all of this stuff. So you'd be like, oh shit, right. So boom, now we see her husband, daughter, and Trudy going, fleeing. And the way they choose to do that. All right. So we end up at this house. And I think, with like the title History of Evil, you wonder what's this implying? And I wasn't quite sure until you get to the house and they're navigating around it, and you're seeing all of this weird things, like they find a Ku Klux Klan hood, just other bits and bobs like that. And then you kind of understand, oh, so we're talking about like the history of something, right, that embedded, you know like atrocities of a place, all the vile things that have happened in this house. And you're like, okay, right. that does make a lot of sense, right? So we're watching this unfold. Now, it looks spooky, right? They've done a really good job of creating this air of oppression. You know, it's this old rundown, it's like a plantation house, you know, that's where they are. So you have this already with a house like that. You know what I mean? There's things that come up, right? And it's like, yeah, the water's messy. There's just ooze and mold everywhere. So you're feeling unease, right? You're feeling like, yo, where's this story going? What's gonna happen? And that, so it's interesting. Now, we then get Ron experiencing these things. And this is where it gets a little bit odd because Daria says something to her mum, which is ignored. And I'm saying, if my kid said that thing to me, I'm like, yo, okay, what the fuck? What is happening right now? You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, we need to go. But it's ignored, right? Which is really frigging odd. Like, there's certain things that happen that aren't really taken seriously. And I kind of think, even if you're not thinking, oh, it could be supernatural, right? You think, like, we're in this predicament. We're on the run. There are people who want, you know what I mean? My wife dead, want me dead. So I kind of feel that there would be more that would be happening, right? But it's not. It's not. So we then have this stuff happening with Ron. And again, interesting, right? But he's not talking about it. And I kind of feel you'd be talking about it, you know? There's that. We see him being weird to Algieri. And again, I think, like, we've seen it in certain things, someone's been in jail, they come out, and then it's just like, oh, you've been away, you can't tell me what to do, and this kind of thing. But I feel, because we don't really know how long she's been in jail, right? We don't really know that. So I think there's some stuff that you kind of need to know to understand, like, certain behaviors, right? I think we need that. And the other thing is, it doesn't seem like it takes much to shift Ron, right? Doesn't seem to be to have much to shift him, which is that's the horror part for me right here with this film. Right? That's the real horror. Because it's just like, because I've been around those people that act like they're, you know what I mean, cool. And then when shit goes south, then suddenly the first things out of their mouth are all of those you know what I mean, isms, right? All those big words start getting said. And it's just like, oh, that's the first thing you go to, right? My first thing would be like, yo, you're a piece of shit, right? Oh, you know what I mean? Something like that. But their first thing is the racist shit, right? And that's the horror. So yeah, it's a bit odd in that regard. And also, I think there's something that happens towards the end, which doesn't make any sense, because it's not just affecting it'd be affecting everyone, right? So that doesn't make any sense. And then the very end, because you wonder, okay, why didn't it happen to anyone else earlier? You know? So yeah, I think there's some interesting things happening in this film for sure. Interesting things happening in this film. And we can see some real promise in what Bo is doing, right? You get that feel that, oh yeah, he's and like he understands these framing devices. He understands like a lot of the nature of storytelling. But there are just some script issues, some story issues that don't necessarily coalesce and give you ultimately that fulfilling experience. But it is a good attempt. It is a good attempt. So if you like things like quicksand, maybe, ooh, what other thing? Like maybe From Black, right? Yeah, I would say it's stuff like that. Leave, like tonally, right? She dies tomorrow. Yeah, there's those sorts of films, that are playing, obviously playing on Shudder. So yeah, I would definitely say if those work for you, if you enjoy those stories, then I feel, right? I feel the history of evil you will vibe with. You'll be like, okay, yeah, this is my kind of film. You know what I mean? So as I mentioned, it is dropping on Friday the 23rd. So there you go. If you want a little bit of creepiness in your life, then History of Evil is for you.